Call Rona Mackay to be followed by Ross Greer. Ms Mackay, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Can I also add my congratulations and best wishes to my colleague Marie Todd on her inaugural debate as the Minister for Childcare in Early Years. Presiding Officer, some debates in this chamber are harrowing, contentious and not pleasant to take part in. This debate celebrating our future Scotland's Year of Young People is certainly not one of those, and I'm delighted to be taking part in it. I guess the clue's in the title, Celebrating Our Future, because to use a cliche, children are our future and, as Ruth Maguire said, our present too. I believe it's our responsibility, not just as elected members, but as adults, to do everything we can to help them grow up in a society which enables them to reach their full potential. Like everyone else in this chamber, I'm regularly invited to visit schools to talk to the children, sometimes to tell them about the job of being an MSP and sometimes to answer pretty tricky questions for modern studies or politics students. But whether it's a primary school or high school, without exception, I've found the children to be polite, well-mannered and exceptionally knowledgeable about the world they live in. And I'm always impressed at their confidence and ability to ask mature questions. A marked contrast to my school days, when talking to adults was done as little as possible and always staring at your shoes. But I also know that life today for young people is not a bed of roses, far from it in many cases. Young people today have more pressures than previous generations in so many ways. Social media, dealing with horrendous world events such as the threat of terrorism, pressure to conform in a material world which to some extent robs them of a large part of their childhood. It's our responsibility to create a society for our young people to thrive and to protect our environment, such as letting them live in a frack-free Scotland, which thankfully we have done, and reducing air pollution and our carbon footprint. But we must also ensure that access to mental health counselling is available quickly for those that need it. It's not an option to compromise on this, and I welcome the Minister's comments on the progress in this area that's been planned. The Scottish Government is determined to make Scotland the best place in the world for children to grow up. We've started by undertaking transformational change in early years provision and attempting to close the educational attainment gap. But, Presiding Officer, there are still too many children living in poverty, and that must be tackled head-on if we're to make a difference to children's lives. The Child Poverty Bill sets out a series of targets which we must reach over the next decade, and we've established a Poverty and Inequality Commission to provide advice to Scottish Government ministers and monitor progress on tackling poverty and inequality. We're also blessed in Scotland to have amazing children's charities, such as Children First, Children in Scotland, Barnardo's, Aberlour and many, many more who do amazing, groundbreaking work with children and families. But, you know, I find that very often young people are way ahead of the game when it comes to organising and self-support, and it just takes one inspirational leader to make a huge difference to many lives. I met one of those leaders at an event I hosted for Arthritis Research UK in Parliament last week. Her name's Charlotte Bamford, and she was diagnosed with acute arthritis at the age of 24 after years of painful tests and examinations. Charlotte was unassuming, down to earth, and in a moving speech, totally devoid of self-pity, told us that as arthritis was always perceived to be an old person's condition, she decided to start a blog to engage fellow young sufferers. There are more than 2,000 children in Scotland who suffer from arthritis, and Charlotte has become a peer mentor to many of them, despite dealing with the devastating effects the condition has had on her life. And we can't forget the army of young carers who are a lifeline for their parents and selflessly sacrifice their own enjoyment and much of their childhood to help family members. They are simply awesome and inspiring, and we could never thank them enough for what they do in society. Presiding Officer, the speeches today have demonstrated the amazing potential of every young person, even those who have had the worst possible start in life. Early next year, I'm hosting an event in Parliament to screen a film called Resilience, which highlights the ACES initiative, ACES standing for Adverse Childhood Experiences, and the way a person's future is mapped out by them. My colleague Gail Ross is also hoping to hold a members' debate on the subject, and I urge everyone to sit up and take notice of the evidence and research that's been done on this subject. It is truly revolutionary and could shape the way we deal with disadvantaged young people for generations to come. So in conclusion, Presiding Officer, Scotland's Year of Young People is a celebration of all the amazing contributions our young people make to society. And it must create a legacy where young people are listened to, so that in effect every year becomes the year of the young person. We've heard the amazing lineup of events scheduled for their special year, which covers a fantastic variety of cultural, education and sporting events. And I hope everyone who takes part absolutely has the time of their life. So I wish every young person the very best of years, next year and every year, because their time is now. Thank you.
Thank you.